It is football happy hour on HQ. Chris Hassel joined in studio by Brady, Quinn, and Bryant McFadden with us as well. Fellas, mandatory minicamps beginning this week for most teams. Aaron Rodgers is in Green Bay. He is going to participate in this, and it is a big difference from last year at this time when his summer vacations were just getting started.
Well, yeah, I mean, look, he's under contract now, and you can say it's not about the money. The reality is when you get compensated to the likes of a 3-year, $150 million deal, it's going to satisfy, at least to some degree, the fact that you've been the best player in the league the past 2 years. You should be compensated for it. He is now. He doesn't have to worry about that. But the importance of coming to this mandatory minicamp, it's developing the chemistry that he needs to with Christian Watson, Sammy Watkins, all the other new players to this roster now because he doesn't have Devontae Adams. So that process starts right now in mandatory minicamp. He's not going to have to learn a new offense. That's not the case, even though Nathaniel Hackett's not there. But the reality is he's got a lot of new faces to throw to, and he's got to find that go-to guy, B-Mac.
Yeah, no doubt, Brady. And also, you got to look at it like you mentioned. He has no reason to not be there. I mean, he's been compensated. He's satisfied when you look at his contract. He has no reason. A year ago, he was disgruntled. He felt some type of way in regards with the organization when it came to the contract and the way they handled the personnel moves and not considering his mindset. But this probably is one of the more important mini camps for Aaron Rodgers, as Brady mentioned, with the unknown at the wide receiver position. Clearly right now, we don't know who the number one guy will be with Devontae moving on to the Raiders. So he has to try to establish chemistry with a lot of new pass catchers, primarily speaking at the wide receiver position. But you better believe they're in good hands as long as number 12 is there. So I think he is excited to get this upcoming year started along with the wide receivers as well.
Talk much more about the Packers and who is going to step up at that wide receiver position in just a little bit. Let's move on to another quarterback, one that is not going to report. Jimmy Garoppolo has been excused by the team because he's still recovering from shoulder surgery. They say he's not going to begin throwing until probably sometime later in the month, so he's been excused. What do the 49ers need to do at this point with him as a potential distraction still on this team?
Nothing. I mean, the reality is the way Kyle Shanahan, John Lynch, Jimmy Garoppolo, Trey Lance, how it's all been handled is perfect. It should be how these sorts of things work themselves out, where if you want to move on from Jimmy Garoppolo, so be it. There's no reason for him to be around for this mandatory minicamp. He can't throw. He's still recovering. So why not allow him to continue his rehab, stay away, and let Trey Lance now become that leader of the team that you're looking for? There's no reason to have Jimmy G around. It's no disrespect to him. He took this team to a Super Bowl. They won an NFC championship with him leading the way. But the truth of the matter is he's not their future, and he's not there right now. So excuse him. Allow him to continue to keep rehabbing so you can, at some point, facilitate a trade. But the truth of the matter is this is how more teams should handle these sort of awkward situations. We've got one right now in Cleveland. Either trade Baker Mayfield or release him. Let him go. Move on. Even though there's uncertainty with what's going to happen with Deshaun Watson, the Browns, to me, are fumbling this whole situation right now. Meanwhile, the 49ers, they're moving on in a new direction, and they're doing the right thing with Jimmy Garoppolo and telling him exactly what's going to happen. He's not going to be playing here anymore, and that's okay. He'll have an opportunity somewhere else.
Yeah, and the writing was on the wall over a year ago when they drafted Trey Lance. You know, making that type of investment at the quarterback position, Jimmy Garoppolo knew exactly what was going to happen, regardless of how things played out a year ago. He played pretty good football. They got him deep into the playoffs, and then, of course, the injury happened, and now it's time for Trey Lance to jump in to become the starting quarterback for the franchise. So, yes, they're handling this the best way possible. A very, very professional way, because as Brady mentioned, if you have him there at the facility in the locker room, questions will be asked about what will happen. What do you want to happen, Jimmy Garoppolo? Other players will have to answer questions as well. And that's the last thing you want to do during minicamp. Ask questions about a teammate. Will he be traded? Should he be traded? Who should be the starting quarterback? Right now, we know who the starting quarterback is. It's not a competition. It is Trey Lance's job to lose, and I think this is the best way to handle this, especially if you want to try to develop confidence in your young quarterback in Trey Lance.
So when would it become a distraction if he's still on the roster? All the way training camp?
I mean, it's not a distraction if they're just saying, hey, we're allowing you to miss this period of time. That's mandatory. I mean, usually a mandatory minicamp, if you're under contract, you don't show up, you're potentially up for fines. But in this case, they're saying, no, we're excusing this. That's okay. We want to move on in the direction of Trey Lance. So even training camp doesn't matter. I mean, they don't need him to be there unless they feel like, look, Trey Lance isn't coming along the way we want, or we need Jimmy G here in order to potentially be a backup. And look, Jimmy G might not want to sign up for that. And maybe that's where, something else comes out of this. But for the most part, this isn't a distraction because of the way the San Francisco 49ers are handling it.
All right, he has an excused absence. A guy who does not is Cowboys tight end Dalton Schultz. He's reportedly going to skip camp. He's not happy. He wants a long-term deal. He's going to play under the franchise tag if they don't reach one in the next 6 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing is if he signed the tag or not. If he hasn't signed the tag, he's under no obligation to go to this mandatory minicamp. So that's the biggest difference when you see a player who's got the franchise tag placed on him. He wants a long-term deal. A lot of these sorts of things will work themselves out over the next few weeks if they can come to an agreement. But let's not forget, too, they did draft Jake Ferguson out of Wisconsin in the 4th round. So that it's almost as if the Dallas Cowboys are looking at potentially moving on. And even though we're looking at the stats of what Dalton Schultz has done, the truth of the matter is I don't know that he's really one of those top options in the passing game or really playmakers within this offense. So he can try to hold out for a bigger long-term deal. I don't know that he's going to get it. I think they drafted him to eventually be the replacement of a guy like Jason Witten. I don't think he's up to the Jason Witten par with that. But this is the only leverage he's got at this point to miss this portion of the season. And then we'll see if they can come to a long-term agreement, and we'll see what decision he makes, B-Mac, once training camp comes close.
Yeah, for Dalton, I mean, he has leverage based on what he's done the last 2 years, especially a year ago, having a career year in yards and receiving touchdowns. But yes, it's all about the market for Dalton Schultz. Where does he see his value? Because if you look at the tight ends, we know George Kittle is a beast, right? He's getting $15 million per year. Travis Kelce I think he's underpaid. He's getting $14.3 million. Dallas Goedert getting $14.2, and Mark Andrews is getting $14 million. Right? So if you're Dalton Schultz, if you're the Dallas Cowboys, where do you value Dalton's production as a player compared to some of the names that I just mentioned? And the most newest, the newly signed contract coming from the tight end position was David Njoku, and he signed over $13 million, 13.6 to be exact. So do you believe the Cowboys value Dalton Schultz like Njoku getting $13 million? I don't think so. I think that is going to be an issue for what the organization see is a fair deal compared to what the players see as a fair deal. And get this, guys. You guys know how much Darren Waller is making this upcoming season?
Pennies on the dollar. He's working on a long-term deal, yeah.
$7.4 million. Remember, he signed his newest deal back in 2019. You talk about underpaid. Darren Waller is getting $7 million this upcoming year.
I think the biggest difference, too, when you look at a guy like David Njoku, who B-Max is using as an example, is that's a legitimate mismatch when you split him out and the way you can move Njoku around because of his size and athleticism. Dalton Schultz is more of your traditional wide tight end. He's going to put his hand in the ground. He's going to be a key component part of that rushing attack, sometimes even in pass protection, as well as releasing out. But you're talking about a different type of player. So if he's looking for that sort of deal, it may be hard to come by as far as a long-term extension because he doesn't provide that mismatch that I think every offense is looking for going up against safeties and linebackers at the NFL level.
Let's move on to the New England Patriots, who always do things a little bit differently under Bill Belichick. Josh McDaniels, obviously now the head coach in Vegas. There's a report now that they don't have an offensive coordinator at this point. The report states that Matt Patricia is the leading candidate to call offensive plays. And I think the run-of-the-mill football fan would say, hang on a second, wasn't he the defensive coordinator when he was here before?
Yeah.
What's up?
This is typical Bill Belichick and New England with the way he's able to coach and condition his assistants. We used to do this drill, and this was back when I was with Eric Mangini, and he brought it from the New England Patriots. You take a day in training camp, you take all the defensive players, you put them on offense. Take all the offensive players, you put them on defense, and you'd go through installs. And the whole point of the exercise was he wanted both sides of the ball to understand that perspective of what you're being asked to do. And a lot of players have played both ways, but you don't realize really the amount and how intense the playbook is and the game planning and the preparation until you go through it firsthand. Another thing you started to realize was guys like BMAC, those DB, those guys are way better athletes than sometimes the guys you throw to a wide receiver. Now, they might not be able to catch quite as well, but that's a whole other story.
Stone hands.
But the point is this. Their coaching staff is going to know both sides of the ball. Now, there is some big-time concerns if Matt Patricia can call offensive plays if he's never really done it before, but he's smart. He understands the weaknesses of defenses. He's game planned his entire life on that side of the ball, and I can assure you he's going to have a plan moving forward on offense. But this is also a title that usually is earned in New England. Let's not forget, when Charlie Weiss left New England, there was kind of that vacancy there. And it was Josh McDaniels calling plays, but they didn't anoint him as the OC until later on. He eventually did such a good job. He got a head coaching job in Denver. So this is pretty stereotypical for Bill Belichick, New England Patriots.
I'm so confused. I would never question Bill Belichick. I think he's one of the greatest to ever do it. But I'm a bit concerned right now in not knowing who the OC will be. And if you decide to go with Matt Patricia, as Brady mentioned, this is a guy who's coming from the defensive side of things. Calling plays is one thing, but doing it consistently is a whole nother thing. As Brady mentioned, they did that for one day where they got the defensive guys to go play offense. They only did it for one day, right? We're talking about going into this upcoming season, which is a very, very important year for that organization, and potentially having Matt Patricia call the plays on the offensive side with a second-year quarterback. A second-year quarterback in Mac Jones. It's one thing if you still had Tom Brady. I can call plays for the Patriots if Tom Brady was still there, or Jimmy Garoppolo, a guy that's experienced. But this is a second-year quarterback, and you're starting to utilize his skill set to understand who he is as a passer. But Matt Patricia, I'd rather Bill Belichick say, you know what, guys? I've been around football longer than anybody else in this building. I will call the plays. I will call the plays. And let's see exactly what happens throughout the year. But Matt Patricia, I mean, my goodness, it seems like they're just waiting for Bill O'Brien to tell Nick Saban, you know what, I'm going to go back to the league. I'm going to the New England Patriots because clearly I don't know what Bill Belichick is doing. I would never question his decisions, but I'm a bit concerned, especially for the second-year quarterback.
Well, let's not forget this, though, too. That defensive playbook that B-Max used to, it's about this big, all right? The offensive playbook, it's front to back, and it's about this big. So Matt Patricia is going to have a lot more situational calls. He's going to be mixing in personnels more so than what you do on defense. I mean, you've got your base, you've got nickel and dime and some variations of that, but you've got an assortment of different packages as far as personnel, situations, play calls, etc. So that's going to be a big-time hurdle, I think, for anyone who's never called plays before, let alone to do it at the NFL level. It's going to be tough, and B-Mac brings up a great point talking about Mac Jones and developing that chemistry. I've been with a lot of first-time play callers. One of the biggest hurdles they face is figuring out their identity as a play caller. Sometimes it takes a while before not only they figure out what they like to call and where they can find a groove, but really what works with the guys you're calling the plays for out there on the field as well.
So, Matt Patricia.
Hey, Brady.
Go ahead, B-Mac.
Real quick, guys. I consider myself to be a football guy, right? So my son's 9-year flag football team, I had to call offensive plays. I'm usually the DC. The OC wasn't there. Listen. That pressure got up on me so fast. I said, oh, my God. And that was only just flag football, Brady. I really thought I was prepared. I got my plays. I got my notepad and everything like that. And I'm like, man, situationally, what should I do? Should I run the football? Should I go a short pass? Should I go a long pass? It happens so fast. I'm not comparing 9U flag football to the NFL. But I am comparing the difference when you come from one side of things and now you're forced to do the opposite.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you get a new defensive guy on your team, and B-Mac will tell you, hey, we're playing man on this one. It's man free, man robber, whatever the variation is. Just guard the guy across from you. It's not that complicated. Offense, it gets really complicated really quick.
Yes.
We'll see if this report comes to fruition that Matt Patricia is right now the leading candidate to call plays, former Patriots defensive coordinator. Another former Patriots defensive coordinator, Romeo Crennel, calling it a career today. 50 years in coaching, and Brady, you spent many a year with him.
Yeah, he's the head coach who drafted me. I loved Romeo, loved Rack, and he's had a wonderful career coaching, big impact on a lot of players, out there as far as almost being a father figure at times. Really, when you look at his coaching style, he wasn't the type of guy that would really, unnecessarily go off on something if he didn't need to. I was always trying to use different examples as teaching moments, was definitely a player's coach. Guys loved him. So wish him a happy retirement. Everyone loves Rack. You're not going to find one player who's like, I didn't like playing for Romeo Crennel. Rack was the best. Wish him the best on a very long, successful NFL career.
I mean, I can't call him Rack because I didn't know Coach Romeo Crennel personally, but every player that I've known that played under Romeo Crennel said the same things that Brady just mentioned. A player's coach, extremely likable, very, very personable as well, nice, high character guy. And you look at his coaching career outside of, some of his head coaching stints. I mean, he's been extremely, extremely productive coach. So seeing him give 50 years to the National Football League on the sidelines. That's one reason to applaud him. But when you look at the lives he's been able to touch, that's a whole nother reason. So salute Romeo on an outstanding NFL coaching career.
5 Super Bowl rings to show for it as well. Let's shift gears briefly to college football and some of the new candidates for the College Football Hall of Fame released over the weekend. And a couple huge names, Tim Tebow, Reggie Bush, BMAC, couple of former Seminoles as well.
No doubt, no doubt. When you look at this class, of course, you talked about the Seminoles, but I think it starts and stops with the 2 names that you mentioned, Tim Tebow and Reggie Bush, 2 iconic college names. When you look at when they played the game on Saturdays, clearly 2 of the best to ever do it. I think Tim Tebow, when you look at his production as an individual, is one thing, but you talk about his leadership, the way he was able to get guys to follow his lead was something that was well documented. And then Reggie Bush, I mean, one of the more entertaining, talented players to ever do it, especially out there at USC. I mean, if you talk about highlights and wanted to stand up when you watch a guy play, when number 5 was on the football field for USC, you knew it was going to be a huge day in his favor, and he was going to make a lot of people look foolish playing opposite of him, trying to stop him and tackle him and cover him. A outstanding player throughout his college time, and also had a heck of a professional career as well.
You know, I have the opportunity to obviously work with Reggie Bush, and I've told him to his face, I've said it on TV, and I'll say it again right now, he's the best college football player I've ever seen. Bottom line is, there was no one who could change his game, and it was as electric and as fun to watch as Reggie Bush. So surprised that he's not already in at this point based on his career. You've got a lot of obviously very deserving members and people who are up for it. It's a star-studded cast. You know, Tim Tebow's had a tremendous career too. So obviously he'll be a guy who'll be getting in there and hearing his name called. But it's one of the tough things. There's so many deserving people to be a part of the College Football Hall of Fame. There's only so many that get to go in each year. But the 2 names you mentioned, Tim Tebow, Reggie Bush, they're going in this year.
Most exciting player, in my opinion as well, that I ever watched in college was Reggie Bush. BMAC, if you had to pick one in your lifetime, most exciting college player, who would it be?
Peter Ward. What do you mean? Number 9. Yeah.
I mean,
just go look at the play against Louisiana Tech right there. Just that play right there. But hey, I can't argue when you guys mention Reggie Bush. Yeah. I'm right there with you. But me personally, it has nothing to do with the Florida State jersey.
Oh, it doesn't?
On my left side. Well, no, Brady, it don't.
If only a department store didn't get in his way. You know, if only a department store didn't get Peter Ward's way. That was the only defense that could stop him was a department store, apparently.
Oh, yeah. Green Bay Packers favored to win their 4th straight NFC North title, with Aaron Rodgers now locked up and seemingly happy. He and the Packers and Matt LaFleur have won 13 games each of the last 3 seasons, but they have not been to the Super Bowl since Rodgers won his one and only Super Bowl 12 years ago. The win total is 11. They are minus 180 to win the division and one of the favorites to win the NFC and the Super Bowl. They're 11-1 to win it all. Rodgers 10-1 to go back-to-back-to-back MVP. Let's break down the cheese with Brady Quinn and Bryant McFadden. And let's start with Aaron Rodgers, Brady. Is the relationship mended at this point?
Well, I think he's forgiven Green Bay and really more probably the front office, if you will, if you look at the structure of it, whether you want to say it's Brian Gutekunst or whoever else you want to point the finger to. He's forgiven. I don't think he's forgotten. I don't think he'll ever forget the fact that they traded up into the first round, didn't tell him they were going to take a quarterback, and took Jordan Love. And it's not like this organization hasn't done something like this in the past. So they should have been better prepared as far as how to manage that sort of situation. He'll never forget that, but he can forgive them for it, and I'm sure he has with the contract that they've presented him. But at this point in time, it's his team, whether that's for this year, the next 3 years. I mean, they're paying him more than any other quarterback in the NFL. So BMAC, I don't know about you, but like I said, it'd be pretty easy to forgive a team if you're going to pay me $150 million.
Hands down, no question. But the thing about Aaron Rodgers is this. I agree with you 110%, Brady. He would never forget what the Green Bay Packers did to him. And the reason why I feel that way, he still holds a grudge with the San Francisco 49ers for not selecting him in 2005. that is still a personal vendetta for him. Anytime he has an opportunity to go against San Fran, now granted, it hasn't worked out as well for him lately, but we know how he feels about that organization and why he feels that way. So yes, he understands and know that, you know what, they made me feel better by giving me 50 plus per year, but I would never forget. So right now, the relationship is the best it could be based on the contractual agreement between Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers, but he would never forget. But I can tell you this much. He's happy. You can tell he looks happy. He feels good. And man, just knowing that he has that $50 million coming in, I mean, will make all parties involved feel a lot better than what they were feeling a year ago around this same time.
50 mil goes a long way in Green Bay, Wisconsin. B-Mac, have you ever eaten a bratwurst?
No.
I knew it. I knew he ordered Cornish game.
I've never had a bratwurst before.
Are you shooting me?
No.
Neither one of you guys have ever had a bratwurst.
No.
No.
It doesn't look appetizing.
What the hell is wrong with you two?
I mean, I would ask the question to you. What's wrong with
where
you?
Can
Why
I
are you
get
putting
it?
that in your body?
Where can I get it?
I mean, it's great. It's a great meat. A bratwurst? Are you kidding me? I just had one last week.
I don't think you want to know how that meat is made.
Well, you don't want to know how a bratwurst or a hot dog is made, but it's damn good. Okay, I guess I'm on an island here.
Guess I'll never get it then if you're going to tell
I've
me
had
that.
cheese curds.
Cheese curds.
Those are good.
How about Jordan Love? We briefly mentioned him. He's entering year 3. Obviously, this season, fine, not an issue. But what do you do with him moving forward if Aaron Rodgers is going to stay for years now?
You got to trade him. I mean, in all honesty, I think when they agreed to the contract with Rodgers, they should have moved on from Jordan Love at that point in time. Because here's the predicament you find yourself in, especially this year, if he doesn't get any playing time. He's now 3 years in the league. He's barely played at this point, and you've got to make a decision on his 5th-year option. And remember, when you make that decision, the CBA has changed in the NFL, so it's fully guaranteed. And so it would lead you to think, well, they're probably not going to pick up that option on him. But a lot of that would have to depend on what Aaron Rodgers wants to do. I mean, I don't think he'd agree to a 3-year deal for $50 million per year if he wasn't going to at least play that out for the next year or 2. So this puts Jordan Love in a really tough predicament. And I think, and honestly, I don't know how things would have worked out had he played sooner in his career, and we still don't know what type of quarterback he's going to be. I do know this. This has to be tough on him to handle mentally and really just keeping his confidence of what he can be as a player. So honestly, if it was me, I would try to move on from him now because I think Aaron Rodgers is going to play, he's going to stay healthy, he's going to play well, and he's probably going to play past this year. So there's no point in keeping this young man on your roster at this point.
Well, I disagree with moving on with Jordan Love, and here's why. Yes, we haven't seen anything from Jordan Love outside of the 6 ball games he's played in so far, but he is a first-round talent. They utilize a first-round pick on Jordan Love because of his potential. Granted, he's playing behind one of the best to ever do it throughout his time in Aaron Rodgers. And yes, Aaron Rodgers signed a 3-year extension, but let's keep it real. This deal can kind of be looked at as a 1-year deal based on where Aaron Rodgers is mentally and physically. So if I'm the Green Bay Packers, Jordan Love, unfortunately, it's a tough situation for you to be in as a competitor. But we're going to keep you in this organization as long as Aaron Rodgers is still here. And whenever he decides to ride off in sunset, now you become the guy. And like you said, because he hasn't played, you're not forced to pick up the 5th-year option, similar to what the Cleveland Browns did with Baker Mayfield. So because of that, you still got him for another 2 years after this year. So keep him there within that organization.
You don't have him for 2 years. You're wrong. That's why I'm saying you got to make a decision now. If you don't pick up the 5th-year option after this year, he's got 1 year. Then you have to franchise tag him if you want to keep him. That price is going to be astronomical. So you're wrong. And that's one of the reasons why.
My thing is this. So all I'm saying is this, and the reason why I say you still have him for another 2 years. Instead of franchising, you can hit him with a low market deal. He has no market value. Who are you going to trade him to right now? He's played 6 ball games. Who's going to give you anything for Jordan Love?
You're going to then pay him and you haven't seen him and Rodgers could still be on your roster? I mean, at this point, like I said, you'd rather cut your losses, take what you can get for him. Otherwise, why would he sign a deal? Wouldn't you think that if you think he's a first-round talent, he'd field a better offer if he's on the free agent market?
He's played 6 games. Who's going to offer Jordan Love $25+ million right now, only playing 6 games? Nobody.
Maybe a team that had
the Green Bay Packers.
Well, first off, who's saying the Green Bay Packers are going to?
I'm not saying they should or they will or they won't. I'm just saying based on the market. The only thing the Green Bay Packers have to worry about right now is other teams. And there's no market for him.
Let's look at that's in a trade value. And yeah, you can make that case. I'm not going to dispute that, but you'd rather get something for him than nothing for him. The truth of the matter is, though, why would he want to stay and sign an extension if he's still sitting behind Aaron Rodgers? He'd rather try to get to free agency, get more money, which if you want to argue that he's not going to receive more money going to the free agent market and he'd rather sign an extension in Green Bay, I personally think you'd be crazy for saying that. But the reality is he'd find a better opportunity not only to play, but make more money in that instance. So why not go ahead and trade him and get what you can for him now instead of having ride the bench for another year behind Aaron Rodgers?
We'll see. I mean, when you look at the most recent comparison, which was the New England Patriots, they traded away Jimmy Garoppolo, who was a second-round pick, and he had more film than Jordan Love. I mean, it worked out well. It worked out well for San Francisco, but it worked out okay, I guess, for New England as well. But the film was more advanced for Jimmy Garoppolo. Man, we've seen Jordan Love play in 6 ball games. He's thrown 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. If he doesn't play one game right now for the next year or the next 2 years, who's trading for that? Who's willing to give up anything? And if you're Green Bay, I'm not trading away a first rounder for a 6th rounder.
Jimmy Garoppolo
to get a 6th rounder in return.
3 games. He only started 3 games they traded for him.
He was 3-0. 3-0.
You're proving
right?
my point, though. Like, you don't have to play a ton of games in order to get trade value for a player that was highly drafted.
But my point, the point that I'm trying to make, I'm making this point under the assumption Jordan Love doesn't play one more game, meaningful game right now while Aaron Rodgers is there.
But
right?
Again,
so he has one start. He has one start. We haven't seen a lot from that start. He completed 58% of his passes. In 6 ball games, he's played 400 yards, 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Who's trading anything valuable to Green Bay for those numbers?
As I said earlier, you're not going to trade anything that valuable for him, and it has nothing really to do with the stats because you're going to base everything off of what you saw of him as a prospect. The bigger issue is if you trade for him, you're only going to have a year left under contract, B-Mac. So that would be why you wouldn't give up a lot for him. If he was under a 4-year deal, you had more control of a former first-round pick. You might pay a little bit more as far as what the trade compensation would be. But that's why they're not going to give up a lot in return. San Francisco traded for Jimmy G with the anticipation that he was going to start and play because they needed him to. And he only had 3 games. So you're literally answering, or you're saying what I'm saying. I just don't think you've convinced yourself of that yet.
No, my point is I disagree. I would not trade him right now. Backup quarterbacks are extremely important. If I trade a first rounder right now because our GOAT is not ready to retire right now, it doesn't help the team, me personally. So if you're trying to trade him,
the team in your opinion the past few years, so it doesn't really matter.
No, he hasn't. Because he's playing behind Aaron Rodgers. I mean, how many backups will help the team at all when you're playing behind Aaron Rodgers, right? And that was the biggest dilemma in why drafting Jordan Love. So me personally, I would not trade
to replace Aaron like they drafted Aaron to replace Brett Favre. The problem is
at some point
this is played on a lot longer than obviously even Brett Favre was there to some degree. So that's
and Aaron Rodgers is playing. Aaron Rodgers is playing much better football than what Brett Favre was when they drafted Aaron Rodgers in 2005. Yeah. So me personally, I'm just saying I disagree. I wouldn't trade Jordan Love right now. I'm sorry, Jordan Love. This is the price you pay. You're getting paid pretty good money still, and we're going to just ride it out until Aaron Rodgers says, you know what, I'm done, and then you become our guy.
Up next on the Brady and B-Mac show presented by Johnsonville Brats, the Green Bay wide receiver position. No Davante Adams anymore.
Right.
We've seen the stat. It doesn't really make any sense. Aaron Rodgers, Matt LaFleur, 7-0 when Davante Adams doesn't play. Bottom line is somebody or somebodies are going to have to step up big. Who's it going to be?
To me, it's a combination of Christian Watson, who they drafted in the 2nd round of North Dakota State. He's got that sort of big play ability. Remember, they found Davante Adams in the 2nd round. They've had a lot of success drafting wide receivers who've had an impact in the 2nd round. So don't discount it just because it's not a first-round pick. And then keep an eye on Sammy Watkins. I don't know how much he'll pitch in. It could be more of a collective effort. I still think he's got some ability. And there's something to be said for a veteran, a guy who's been around the league, has played a lot of football. He knows what to expect from a defense. Aaron's going to kind of, at least I believe, be able to get on the same page with a veteran much faster than a rookie. who's still trying to feel out the league at this point. So to me, it's a combination, but keep an eye on Sammy Watkins, but also Christian Watson as the season goes on, B-Mac.
Yeah, eventually I think Christian Watson will emerge to be the type of talent many people, felt he could become, and the reason why they drafted him so high. I think to start off, I would go with Allen Lazard. I think with the experience he has with Aaron Rodgers, the experience he has within that offense, a big body target, especially in the red zone, this is his opportunity to really showcase what type of player he can be. And I don't disagree with Sammy Watkins, Brady, but the thing about Sammy Watkins, he's always injured.
Hurt. Yeah.
That's the thing. The talent is still there. He still can get behind coverage in the secondary. He still can come up in the clutch for you, but he's dealing with so many injuries here or there that prevents him from being on the football field. So the durability is a bigger concern in regards to Sammy Watkins, and because of that, I go with Lazard first, and I think Christian Watson will show up eventually to be able to showcase what type of player he is, and then maybe Sammy Watkins if he's healthy.
You don't have to get behind a defense when you got Aaron Rodgers as your quarterback because he throws that back shoulder fade so well. You just got to threaten him and make a guy like B-Mac think you're going to run downfield. You turn, he puts the ball right there, easy completion, first down, moving the chains.
The best back shoulder fade passer I think I've ever seen, and that's Aaron Rodgers.
Yep. Yeah, it doesn't matter who's at cornerback if you've got the back shoulder pass from Aaron Rodgers. Speaking of B-Mac and B-Mac's kind of guys, let's go to that side of the ball. Let's go to the corner position. Jair Alexander, he is now the highest paid cornerback in the league, B-Mac. Where does he rank? I mean, is he a top 5 corner at this point?
Oh, yes. Yes, clearly top 5 in my opinion. I think the better argument is where he is when you look at the top 3 guys. You know what I mean? Depending on who you're asking. You can definitely, I think the consensus would say Jalen Ramsey. But when you look at some of the other elite guys, man, you got Xavier Howard in there. When Trey White is healthy, he could be in there. But I love Jair Alexander because of his heart, the way he plays the football game. Why he's always around the football. And the thing that I love outside of his coverage ability, guys, tackling. He goes at the ball carrier or the wide receiver like it's his last. He goes out and leaves it all on the line when it comes to tackling, and because of that, he is a complete corner, not to mention his ability to play the outside corner and playing the nickel as well. So the versatility is there. I think he's a top 3 corner, and now when you look at the market value, when you're that type of corner, you will reset the market, and deserving so. Jair is one of the best to do it in the National Football League, and getting him back in that secondary was a huge plus when you look at what they already have in Stokes and Douglas. Re-signing Douglas had a huge year, especially when Jair was missing time. This secondary has an opportunity to be one of the best in the National Football League this upcoming year.
There's no doubt he's one of the best in the league. I think it's always hard to rank these guys because they're asked to do different things depending on the scheme they play in and what the defense is asking them to do. So I would put him right there up at the top as far as how he's played so far this year. But B-Mac mentioned a lot of guys. We showed a graphic with the top 5, at least how they're paid. All those guys, you could say are in the conversation between top 3, top 5 as far as their play at cornerback. J.C. Jackson we didn't put in there, but he's been a ball hawk lately. Xavier Howard you'd probably put as part of that group. Trayvon Diggs we didn't even mention, and he's been a ball hawk at least last year. Probably want to see him do it some more. A.J. Terrell down in Atlanta, he's been solid too. So there's a lot of guys that I think are deserving to throw in that category, but to me, Jair Alexander is right there up there with the best of them, and a guy like Jalen Ramsey, I think most people kind of look at it as like the consensus, top cornerback in the league.
Over-under win total for the Packers is 11. They've gone over that each of the last 3 seasons. 13 wins in all 3 seasons under Matt LaFleur. What do you see this season? Again, 17-game season now in the NFL.
Yeah, I put them at 13 wins. I think maybe 12, 13 feel comfortable, so I'm definitely hammering the over here. And that has everything to do with the fact that I think their division's pretty winnable outside of Minnesota, but they do have a first-year head coach. They should be able to take care of business there. And really, when you look at their schedule, outside of a tough stretch between week 7 to week 13, where they've got 5 of 7 of those games on the road. And there is a stark contrast between Aaron Rodgers' win-loss record at home versus on the road. That's that week 7 to week 13 area to keep an eye on. And then, again, if you look at the couple home games they've got, it's a short week where they're taking on the Tennessee Titans at home, but a team that was in the playoffs last year and runs the football well, which has been an Achilles heel of the Green Bay Packers. So that week 7 to week 13 is an area to keep an eye on, but I've got them winning 13 games, maybe 12, somewhere in that ballpark for me, B-Mac.
Yeah, for me, Brady, I think I'll go right at the push spot with 11 and 6. And here's why. I mean, we just highlighted the offense, talking about the wide receivers, and we just named 3 different guys who we believe could emerge to be the go-to receiver for Aaron Rodgers. That is a big concern for me. For the very first time in a long time, Aaron Rodgers he will go into training camp, it's safe to say, not knowing exactly who the number 1 wide receiver will be. And that will take some time to establish that position. And we know how much that has meant to Aaron Rodgers in the Green Bay Packers. I know people will say, well, they've done a great job when Devontae missed time and they were still able to win the ball games. Filling in for a guy like Devontae, knowing he will come back at some point in time is one thing. But knowing that he won't play for your organization the entire season is a whole nother thing. So I think that will take some time. I love the defense. I love the personnel. But I think we will see a few trap-like ball games for the Green Bay Packers. And I could be wrong, but I don't expect to see them win around 13 games like they've done over the last few years. I think there could be an opportunity with a difficult schedule when you look at the travel, right? Could really provide some trap elements for them. So I go 11.
We're looking to the future here for the Green Bay Packers, who are looking to win the division for a 4th straight time and looking to get over the hump and get back to the Super Bowl where they haven't been in over a decade. What's your best futures bet for the Packers right now?
That's it for me. Lay some money on this team to win the Super Bowl. I mean, the bottom line is the odds will probably only get worse once we get into the season. They start playing some of these games. So if you look at the fact that, they've got Aaron Rodgers back, it seems like he's satisfied. They did a lot of things up front to help solidify the offensive line, add some depth there. BMAC just talked about the defense, retaining some of those players, but even adding to it in the draft. And then finding some wide receivers, too, in the draft as well as in free agency to help stockpile it. So if you're looking at the NFC, you'd have to look at Green Bay as one of the top teams. And I think if you look at that division outside of Minnesota, you're saying it's a pretty clear path. So I love throwing some money right now on that futures bet for Green Bay, B-Mac, because, again, I think these odds are going to go down, obviously, as we get closer to the season or as the season wears on.
Yeah, Brady gave you guys the team element when it comes to best bet. I'll give you guys an individual element when it comes to the best bet for the Green Bay Packers. And I'm attacking Christian Watson. And when you look at his receiving yards total, I take the over. That number is at 615 right now. I see Christian Watson getting over 615 yards throughout his rookie campaign. And here's why. We don't know who the number 1 guy will be. We just highlighted the wide receiver position. I believe Christian Watson at some point in time will emerge to be that guy, and the same can be said for Brady. So with the uncertainty at that position will provide opportunities for him, especially with a veteran passer like Aaron Rodgers throwing him the football. You look at that odds, it's minus 110 right now. So yes, I'm going with Christian Watson taking the over at his receiving yard total, which is 615.
Back here on HQ with a look at the odds to win NFL MVP. Josh Allen is the favorite, and the Bills are the favorites to win the Super Bowl. Patrick Mahomes right behind. Tom Brady has won 3 MVP awards, but hasn't won one in 5 years. Aaron Rodgers has won the last 2. Some young guns right behind, Justin Herbert and Joe Burrow. Brady Quinn and Bryant McFadden here. I'm Chris Hassel. Let's go head-to-head picks here. Okay. So if you're putting 2 guys that have virtually the same odds head-to-head, who would you take? Let's start at the very top here. Josh Allen's the favorite. Patrick Mahomes has been the favorite in years past and has won award.
Yeah, and I think it's hard to win it as a favorite, which is why I'm not going with Josh Allen, even though he very well could be this year. He's obviously had a tremendous past couple of seasons, but he is dealing with a new play caller in Ken Dorsey, who's taking over for Brian Dable that left to go be the head coach for the New York Giants. There will be a transitional period there. And again, it's tough when you are the favorite going into the season to stay on top. And that's why I like Patrick Mahomes, because he's been the favorite in the past, but he's not in this case. So you get a little extra value there. I know there's some concern about not having Tyreek Hill. The reality is this. Look at what they did to replace him. I mean, Mecole Hardman, first off, is going to step up in a bigger role. You see Juju Smith-Schuster here. He's going to be more of that big body possession receiver. Marquez Valdez-Scantling, who had a great year last year with the Green Bay Packers, will step up and take the top off the defense. And oh, by the way, how about this? Think about the national stage they're going to have almost week in and week out. 19 primetime games the AFC West gets. That's how many primetime games. So they're going to have many opportunities to showcase themselves and really showcase his skill set, B-Max. So I love Patrick Mahomes in this spot, and it's kind of weird to see him as number 2 because, to me, he's still the most talented quarterback, and I trust him and Andy Reid to still be able to put together quite the potent offense. In a league, by the way, that has so much other offensive firepower, could be a lot of shootouts in the AFC West, too. That's going to help the stats.
Yeah, no doubt. I like Patrick Mahomes, but I'll make a case for Josh Allen, right? When you look at the talent, he might be one of the more talented quarterbacks in the National Football League. It's not just about his arm, just the athleticism. We saw 6 rushing touchdowns from him a year ago. I can easily see him getting close to 10, which would be impressive, especially when it comes to this MVP category. Not to mention as a passer, when you look at what they've done to continue to add pieces around him, adding Jamison Crowder is a huge, huge plus. Jamison Crowder is a prolific route runner. A lot of people overlook him because of the organizations he's been playing with. But this is a guy that can do dividends and do big-time things, pay dividends for this team and do big-time things for this offense, along with Josh Allen being his quarterback. You know about Stephon Diggs, and Gabriel Davis is now the new number 2. He has emerged to be a big-time playmaker for their offense, not to mention when you look at Knox at the tight end position and adding O.J. Howard, who is a talented guy. He just hasn't been able to find his stride because of injuries and because of inconsistencies. But I think if he can stay right and understand and get this offense down packed, he will help this offense as well. So me personally, I think you can take either guy, right? But I'll make my case for Josh Allen based on the talent, based on where he's going in his career, and along with how this team will do. Because we know one thing about the MVP is not just about the individual skill set, it's about the team as well. And we all would say, not saying that Kansas City is not the favorites, right? Won't be a favorite, but the Buffalo Bills has an easier task to be able to get to the promised land more so than Kansas City, especially when you look at their division, the AFC West.
Definitely an easier road to hoe. Aaron Rodgers has not been the favorite either of the last 2 seasons. He has won the MVP each of the last 2 seasons. Again, not one of the 2 favorites, but he's right in their top 4. Let's pit him up against another guy who has 3 total MVP awards, and that's Tom Brady.
I'm torn here because honestly, I could go either direction. I would love to see Aaron Rodgers win back-to-back-to-back MVPs. I just think it'd be one of the coolest things that
only Brett Favre has done it.
Right, and you kind of look at that and you go, all right, another Green Bay quarterback. But even again, how it's all kind of come about, right? Like it's been on the heels of them trading up to draft a first-round pick to replace him. And he's kind of throwing it right back in the face of the Green Bay Packers. Maybe a lot of people, too, want to keep using that narrative of, well, that's the motivating factor. Whatever the case may be, it would be fascinating to see that happen. I just have a hard time believing the media and all those who actually vote on the MVP are going to do it, even though Rodgers has played at such a high level. I personally want to see Brady do it because I don't know how many more chances we're going to get to see him play. This could be his final season, given his age and all that. And if he was able to win one at his age, which he turns, 45 this year, that would be unbelievable.
Yeah, he won at age, I think it was age 40 was his last one, which was, we thought that was crazy then.
And this would be even crazier. Like you'd be looking at it saying no one will ever be able to surpass winning an MVP at 45 years old in the league. So I'm kind of rooting for Tom Brady to do it only because I think Aaron Rodgers is going to be around for maybe another couple years at least. Yeah,
and I think Tom Brady will do it more so than Aaron Rodgers because the experience at the wide receiver position, when healthy, is safe to say the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have 2 number 1s, right? Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. Of course, Chris Godwin is coming off that ACL injury, but they're saying he should be ready to go by the start of the season. So that should be a big-time plus. Adding Russell Gage from a divisional foe in the Atlanta Falcons is a huge pickup as well. Russell Gage can play football. A lot of people just don't know about his skill set because he was with the Atlanta Falcons, but getting him into the fold with Tom Brady is going to be huge. So I do believe Tom Brady is probably more likely because of the pass catchers, but I will say this, guys. If Aaron Rodgers repeats the numbers he did from a year ago, right, without Devontae Adams, man, Brady, he will have a legitimate case into getting another MVP award based on the skill set along with the stats.
No doubt. I mean, the only thing I always throw back out there is, Tom Brady's old. He's 45, and he's still doing it. He needs to retire. He makes everyone look bad in the league because he's played at such a high level for so long that now when a guy like Aaron Rodgers is like, yeah, he said recently, I'm kind of contemplating retiring, kind of thinking about it a lot or think about it after each season. Everyone's like, well, what do you mean? He's not 40 yet.
Yeah, what is he, 8 years younger than Tom Brady?
Like 6
something
years,
like that?
but still, everyone's like upset about it.
Let's talk about some guys who are at least a decade away from even thinking about retiring, maybe even 2 decades the way things are going right now, and that's Justin Herbert and Joe Burrow. Herbert's 12-1, Burrow is 13-1. Burrow with the stunning ascension last season. Herbert is a guy that has all the talent.
It feels like this is the year for Justin Herbert. Like if you're kind of looking at guys who are a little further down the list, this would be a guy that would really put some money on. I mean, he's got the skill set. It feels like, he's not getting as much attention as he should given what he's been able to do so far. He's been one of the more prolific passers since he got his opportunity in week 2 of his rookie season. Now, you could easily make a case for Joe Burrow, especially with what they did last season, displaying themselves as maybe the team to beat now in the AFC North. All that being said, something tells me that it's going to be a year for Justin Herbert with the way they like to throw the football, and especially as aggressive as Brandon Staley is. I mean, Justin Herbert gets more fourth down opportunities than most people. You're only going to be throwing the football. You're going to give him a chance to stay out there on the field. So I'm kind of leaning towards Herbert here, even though I think they're both very capable of winning this award.
I'll make a case for Joe Cool, and here's why. Joe Cool gave you 30 passing touchdowns, outstanding passing yards, while getting sacked 300 times. Now, I know I'm exaggerating, but it felt like it was 300 times. And Brady, you played quarterback. Can you imagine getting sacked one time? I'm getting sacked in one ball game 9 times, right? At some point in time, you're seeing ghosts. He saw ghosts the entire season, but still delivered. So one would think, when you look at the offseason mindset for the Cincinnati Bengals, this offensive line unit will be much improved from what we saw last year. And then when you factor into his trio of pass catchers, right? Wide receivers, Boyd, Higgins, and Chase. And then if you add in Hayden Hurst, who I believe is going to have a huge year, especially within this offense, and along with the wide receivers that I mentioned that will take pressure off his plate, he is going to deliver. So I think with the offensive line improvement, knowing the skill set that Joe Burrow has, along with the wide receivers, and that offense is catered to throwing the football, I side with Joe Burrow and having a more legit case to win the MVP. I like Justin Herbert, don't get me wrong. I can make a case for Justin as well, but I just go Joe Cool because I think the offensive line would be better, and if they are, he's going to do big-time numbers, much better than what he did last year.
I hope they're better. I mean, that was awful last year at times.
No kidding. MVP look-aheads right now with Brady, Quinn, and Bryant McFadden. B-Mac's pick Josh Allen, Brady's pick Patrick Mahomes, but for value, for maybe a long shot to win it, who do you like?
I mean, really long shot we're talking. You know, Kyler Murray's an interesting one to me because he's gotten better and better and better each season. Now, he's not going to have DeAndre Hopkins for those first 6 games, but I also think that maybe makes the case for him if they play well and if they get off to a good start, which has traditionally been what they've done. Now, you'd like to see him cut down some of the interceptions, and he's going to have to use his legs as part of that component of what's going to lead to it. But there's no reason to think that he shouldn't take that next step. They're probably going to give him that contract extension that he's looking for, so he'll be satisfied and happy, and he can just focus on playing football. But, you know, B-Mac, I think there's a lot of guys you could kind of throw in the mix for this, but Kyler Murray is one to me that I believe in, and I think they might be able to excel a little bit too once they get Hopkins back.
Well, I'll tell you this much, if Kyler Murray does anything close to what you're talking about, oh my goodness, they better hope he's been paid already. Because man, he's going to script everything off his social media handle if he's not paid and he does what you're expecting him or what you're saying potentially he could do. My long shot is, yes, it's a long shot. I go Jameis Winston, right? And the reason why I go Jameis is number one, health. If he's healthy, right, looking at what he did last year, and those 5 games he played, 5-6 ball games that he played for the Saints, I mean, he was doing big time things, and I think his numbers would have been, oh my goodness, it would have been spectacular. But now he's coming off an injury, but then when you look at the personnel, he get Michael Thomas back. Jarvis Landry, who's been tearing up OTAs, is looking phenomenal. Talented Chris Olave, who they spent a first rounder on, and don't forget about Alvin Kamara as a pass catcher. I mean, this is an offense under the radar. No one is really talking about, but they have an opportunity, especially if the offensive line at the left tackle position. If they can do what they're supposed to do, this is an offense that will do numbers, especially if Jameis Winston is healthy. And you know he's a gunslinger, and he got his eyesight fixed, and he's seeing things clearly now, much better than what he's done in years past. And I think we saw a glimpse of the type of player he could be a year ago before the injury. So he is my long shot to potentially get in that MVP category.
Wow, 150-1 for Jameis Winston. What happens first, Brady? Jameis Winston wins MVP, or you eat a bratwurst?
Jameis Winston is going to win the MVP.
Oh, wow. Okay, well, this is a real deal then. 150-1.
I need to put some more
value there, baby.
All right.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis. No yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.